Hello, everybody, and thanks for taking the time to join us today as our team walks through both the NetSuite Planning and Budgeting module and the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse module and how those modules specifically can support transportation and logistics type companies. So we're going to show you a little bit of everything today, everything from lane level profitability and fleet utilization, all the way down to just general consolidated financial forecasting. So our goal here is to be pretty quick and snappy, and just show you some high level capabilities of the tool and some neat reports that we've built out specifically for the industry. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to my colleague CJ to show you NSAW.
Yeah, thanks for that. To start, so I'm going to share. To start, let's kind of base around what NetSuite Analytics Warehouse is. So this is NetSuite's all-in-one business intelligence tool. So essentially, gets to call itself an all-in-one intelligence tool because it is not just a front-end BI tool that has all the graphs and the pivot tables and all that. It also comes with Oracle's autonomous data warehouse, which is being represented by my blue puck down here. This is where I'm achieving all my efficiencies, like being able to have my reports updates without me having to do anything. It allows me to include external data sources and then blend those all together. So that way all my users are able to build and create reports off of curated data sets. So overall, a very powerful tool. This is to be kind of the end level of reporting. This is the highest layer that you can get from NetSuite. And again, that's due to its whole data warehouse component. So I'm definitely going to show you the tool as well as some of that data components as well. So let me stop sharing this real quickly. Let's dive into my demo real fast. So we've had a decent amount of requests for transportation type companies, so I've had time to play around. For starters, obviously, I can create these types of metrics at the top, just high level, like revenue versus how much I'm expending. I can see my total miles, maintenance. I can basically put just high level statistics for a quick and easy view. NSAW also specializes within the kind of the graphs as well as the visualization component. So obviously I just have a trend line that's showing my revenues and my expenses. This data set has them kind of in line, but obviously I can tell with the two of them in the same visualization. Another thing that I'm able to do is I'm able to kind of see week to week time. I can do a week to week, I can do month to month, I can do daily, I can do a lot of different granularities for my slicing and dicing as I see fit. Total miles and everything like that would be broken out by weeks or months or anything like that. Here I have weeks specifically because that was the ask that I had from previous clients, as well as how many drivers we're currently going within that week. And this is just a high level summary. My idea would be that, you would come here and just get a quick glimpse, but then we could go into even more detail. I can now do revenue by drivers. And again, this is just, I've put my drivers amounts as well as revenues, or I can do total miles over time and see how many miles am I putting down per part of the year. You can notice that my data sets is within one posting period. I'm not just limited to basic like bar charts and line graphs. I do have a full suite of visualizations like scatter plots, scatter plots, box points, maps, all that fun stuff. Right now, right here, I have is trailer expenses by my expense or expense by date scatter plot. I can also do though individual applications like trying to hone in specifically on drivers. For this scenario right here, I have my driver ID, both my top 10, as well as maybe those that are kind of currently struggling. You can see that represented here in total miles, as well as the revenue that is being brought in according to those. I just have a top, like how many drivers I have in total. One of the things that I can do here, though, is that I can also filter on these. So if I just click on them, everyone else should filter. Oh, hold on. I need to use as a filter. And then I click on them. So now everything is filtered. So if I wanted to zoom in specifically on driver 1070 and say, well, he's doing pretty good. Show me his statistics. And now I'm getting a full breakdown of every day that he's driven, where his locations were, and then, downtime hours, odometer miles, and then all of the metrics along those routes. The other thing that I've done too is kind of on the same vein, being able to highlight routes and things. I do have a map, and then if I want to, again, I can basically hone in on another driver specifically and have a map changed. So right now, this one, based on like my dummy data, is just cities and states. But if I get more granular, like I get, addresses specifically, or I get longitudinal and latitude lines, I can actually go in and modify this completely to a point where I'm actually able to see these types of things for my drivers and basically get to pick out each one of their individual routes. I've gone ahead and I've hit the edit button to kind of show you how this thing is customized and worked. At the end of the day, it's all just very similar to any other business intelligence tool. I just kind of drag and drop and make things, kind of highlighting here as well. Like I mentioned, I have my map that is set up between my destination and my origin cities. And then if I don't want to do that, I'll probably break it completely if I do this, but all it takes is just drag and dropping. So if I take something like total miles and I say, well, now I need you in colors. It didn't really do anything, but I'm assuming because it's filtered. But I'm able to just simply drag and drop and make modifications as I see fit. We can even just drag everything in, make just a table, and I can export that to Excel to be able to send this to any form of like executive teams or leadership that may be interested but don't want to log into a separate tool. But this makes it real handy again for just ad hoc reporting. The other thing to kind of close off on is to talk about the full host of basically AI integrations. This is part of like all one Oracle kind of vision that they have, and this does have a host of AI capabilities. This Insights tool right now is basically reading this data set over here and saying, okay, well, what can I suggest? As well as then I do have the AI assistants where I can ask it things like, show me top 10 drivers based on total miles. And it can spit this out. Now, the out-of-the-box AI assistant, while it is the most secure, is kind of the most limited in terms of capabilities. But that hasn't stopped Oracle from kind of giving us even more. As I mentioned, though, actually, let me highlight this real quickly before. This is all your data that you could foresee yourself having. But one of those that I had to do for all of my visualizations is I had to make a wealth of calculations. These are all, again, very transport specific, but things like seated driver counts, tractor count, et cetera, just making sure that all of these visualizations work how I want. This guy right here, an AI assistant, can't do that. However, that gap is now officially bridged thanks to OIC. So we're able to jump in here, take a quick look, and start prompting according. And so I ask, can you give me some key business insights from this data set? Because it's able to locate my transportation data set. It says, let me run several queries. Your freight revenue totals 4.65 million across 3 months, the biggest expense categories. Fuel alone accounts for over half of the tracked expenses. Lane performance, Dallas is your hub. So I hope as you're looking at this stuff, you're kind of cueing in on the fact that now, instead of having to just use this tool for visualizations and creating graphs, now I can leverage AI attached to it that's actually going to read the individual data that I curate and put in front of you. This also, though, can create calculations, parameters. It can really just help bridge the gap between an experienced business user and someone who this is their first like run into like the BI world, which is a very common situation for new NSAW users who are typically a NetSuite user first. And then the last thing that I'll kind of mention is that NSAW does also allow you to get access via AI on the autonomous data warehouse in the backend. So this one is not attached to that data set at all, but essentially right now what I'm highlighting is the fact that it's able to look at all of the various NetSuite tables and it's able to get access to them. It's able to group them. It's also able to query against them. This makes it super easy now for even users that aren't very technical and aren't very versed in using that data warehouse. It's now becoming much easier to use, as well as it's becoming easier for NHI to empower our users to do even more. So I hope that gives you a good wrap up of how NSAW works in total. At the end of the day, it is an all-in-one business intelligence solution that allows me to build visualizations. And it's also now is coming with a full host of state-of-the-art AI technologies to really leverage. But this is just a small piece of EPM. With everything being said on my NSAW side, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Gerard to talk about NSPB. And we can go there.
Great. Thank you, CJ. If I can just going to share my screen here. Bear with me 1 second. And what we're going to step through today, pretty simple little demonstration of NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, part of the EPM suite. We're going to focus here on a little demo that I put together specifically for trucking and logistics. Pretty straightforward. You see, I built a little custom kind of navigation menu. And the first thing we're going to look at here is our monthly income statement detail. So you'll notice I've got my various sections. Here I've got my revenue with my line haul revenue, FFC total revenue, fuel surcharge, and then my accessory revenue with sales adjustments as well, all rolling up to total revenue. I've got my operating expenses, total wages and benefits, fuel, total purchase transactions, equipment, all the other various categories. And you'll notice that this is built in a hierarchical nature all the way down to my pre-tax profit. And one of the nice things about NetSuite Planning and Budgeting is this structure, this income statement structure automatically gets fed over from the core ERP. So if you add in a new revenue account into the core ERP, it will automatically flow in as part of the data sync into NetSuite Planning and Budgeting. If you add in a new operating expense, it will be the same thing as well. You don't have to add it in two systems twice. And what happens is every night, the actual data, all the GL data, both income statement and balance sheet data gets moved over into NetSuite Planning and Budgeting. So it syncs up every night. Can you sync it up more frequently? Absolutely. You could sync it up every hour, every half hour if you want. You can also run it on an ad hoc basis. So you'll notice here in this particular data set, I'm looking at my USD currency. I'm looking at the US subsidiary, but I have a number of subsidiaries here. My scenario, I'm looking at my actuals. I can also look at my budget or forecast. If I change this to my forecast, I see a whole new set of data. If I now change this back to my budget, you see there's no data in here for my budget. But if I change back to my actual, you'll now see my actual data. I'm looking here specifically at FY25. Could I look at FY24? Yeah, I certainly can. And I can change it back to FY25. Could I bring in more periods here? Yeah, I'm just looking at January through to December. I could easily bring my years into the columns here. So I could see, FY24, FY25, and also my forecast for FY26. So I can see multi-year periods here as well if I wanted to do that. In this case, I kept it simple. I'm just having my January through to December, all rolling up to my year total. So let's say in this particular example, I go in and I start changing some of my numbers around. So let's pick a month here. Let's pick January. Let's go down. Let's look at the profit for January is a negative 455,000. Let's go and change our line haul revenue. Let's double this 4.5 million to 9 million. I could just type in 9M, click on the save button. I went from negative 450,000 to a positive 4 million. So again, this is a dynamic model. I can go in and change things on the fly and increase them. Let's say I increase drivers' wages. So I have a $4 million pre-tax profit. Let's say drivers' wages double as well. So I changed this from 1.75 million to 3.5 million as an example. I'm going to go in and click save, click on the save button. So I've now doubled that up, and now my profit drops to 2.2 million. So you can see kind of the dynamic nature of the model. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to another a income statement summary tab, which is basically it's going to be the same set of accounts, except we're not going to go down to the lower level detail. We're going to keep it at a higher level. And you can see here, I've got my 9 million. I don't have the detail underneath it. I've still got my 4.7 million here, and I can see my pre-tax profit here of 2.2 million. I've also got all my various statistics. I've got my revenue driver per week. I've got my miles per trip. I got my wages and benefits broken out per mile. These are all my various statistical accounts. So let's say here, I got my wages and benefits per mile. Let's go in and start changing some of these. So let's say I've got my average seat count, average truck count, total miles. Let's say we just changed this total miles here from 1.9 million to, let's say, 4 million. So we're going to roughly double it, right? So let's see the impact on that to something like my trip per mile or my wages and benefits. So if I click save, you'll notice that dropped significantly. It went from 5.6 to 2.74. Also, wages and benefits, everything else came down because I took this main driver, my total miles, and decreased it. Now, if I go back and change it back again, let's go back and change that back again. Take a look. And just before I click save, so this is 2.7 and 1.18. Let's click save. And now I'm back to 5.61 and 2.43. So you can see kind of the dynamic nature of the model. If we update a key driver, how it reflects through the whole model. Okay. And again, it's similar type of idea here. I can run this for my various, currencies, my various scenarios, my various years as well. And then I also have a final kind of view here, which really gets into kind of where I'm looking at my total revenues, where I'm looking at my year totals. So I'm looking at my actuals for FY25. I'm looking for my actuals at FY24. I'm looking at my year-over-year change dollar amounts and my year-over-year change percentages. And I can see it broken down by all my different sections, my revenue, my OPEX, my pre-tax profit, all of my various drivers as well are all in there in this particular view. And yeah, basically that shows you the capabilities of the tool. It's very hierarchical in nature, the way it rolls things up. I could also do what if analysis or scenario analysis here. So on these other tabs here, if you noticed, I have the ability to obviously, look at my forecast data. I can input different forecast numbers, change the total mileage on my forecast number. So if I went over here, for example, and I said, oh, well, I want to update my total mileage forecast because that's a key driver, I can then forecast that if we changed that number. So you can change those key drivers as well. So in essence, I'm doing a year-over-year comparison here. I'm doing a current year versus prior year. Could I do a actual versus forecast or actual versus budget? Absolutely. I do it in exactly the same manner that I have it set up here. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time on NetSuite Planning and Budgeting.
Perfect. Thanks, Gerard, and thanks, CJ, and thanks all for joining. We look forward to hearing your feedback. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us through our website, and we're looking forward to double clicking on some of these data sets. So we appreciate it and looking forward to chat with you all soon. Thanks all.